So this story is going to be partially funny, and it's going to be partially serious because there are funny things to talk about here and serious things to talk about. There are numerous social media groups and accounts and pages targeting both the David Pakman Show and the Majority Report with Sam Seder, claiming to target us from the left, which have cropped up recently. One such group, this is just an example, okay, just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about. One such group is a Facebook group called Progressives Against Sam Seder and David Pakman. And there are some funny things on the page. For example, if you look at the header image, cartoons of Sam and I, a word bubble from Sam saying Joe McCarthy 2020 and me saying yes, please. Then there's another group called Anti-McCarthyism Progressive Unity against Sam Seder and David Pakman. And of course, there are endless Twitter accounts, which I mute when I see them because I don't have time for them, and YouTube comment movements, pylons, which are lately targeting Sam and me from the so-called progressive indie media. But sometimes they're targeting more people too. So sometimes Sam and I will be targeted, including Kyle Kulinski from Secular Talk as being part of the problem. Sometimes Kyle is part of the solution, but Sam and I are part of the problem. Or sometimes they will include Tom Hartman as part of the problematic left-wing media, along with Sam and with me. But sometimes Tom Hartman is the right type of progressive. He's on the good side of the line, but Sam and I are on the wrong side of the line. But the point here is that who is on which side of the line changes, and it depends hugely on which so-called progressives are drawing that line. And that's not hugely surprising. Now, I'm trying to think of like how to even start with this, because when you see something like this, progressives united against David Pakman and Sam Seder, there are a bunch of obvious questions that we should be asking. Question one is, are these groups really people who are on the left who dislike Sam and who dislike me, or are they right-wing astroturf? That's a question to be asked. Second, who is it that these so-called progressives support? If Sam and I are the problems, who are the right progressives that should be supported, according to the people who are creating these groups, targeting Sam and targeting me? And thirdly, what does it mean about the progressive movement that more and more stuff like this type of infighting and targeting is cropping up? So here's the common trends I'm seeing when you look at the anti-David and Sam pages. Number one, many of them have a ton of pro-Jimmy Dore content posted as examples of the right kind of leftism. Okay, so if we look at progressives against Sam Seder and David Pakman, a whole bunch of the posts are Jimmy Dore clips, which I believe is meant to imply that Jimmy's the right kind of progressive and Sam and I are the wrong types of progressive. So right off the bat, you start to get a picture of this anti-Sam and David movement as at least partially a pro-Jimmy Dore movement. Often these pages, and particularly the Twitter accounts, also have a lot of pro-Tulsi Gabbard content. If you don't know Tulsi Gabbard, she is a presidential candidate currently polling about 0.6%, I believe. So that's another sort of trend that exists. And then typically, there's a lot of Russiagate denialism that is in a lot of these anti-David, anti-Sam pages, along the lines of, we can't believe anything Mueller says other than when Mueller said no collusion. But all the stuff about obstruction and election interference and WikiLeaks' involvement from the Mueller report, that stuff we don't believe. But we can definitely trust Mueller that Trump did nothing wrong. So I'm not going to go back and attack any particular wing of the left. I'm not going to accuse certain leftists of not really being left, because that would be furthering the problem that these groups are sort of indicating exists. Here's my main point. If the left continues to do this, the left is going to continue to fail on many fronts. And I brought this up on the Joe Rogan program 2 weeks ago, and a bunch of people misunderstood what I was saying. When people come to me and they say, David, what's the real problem with the left? It's not SJWs, okay? It's not campus free speech suppression. It's not toxic identity politics. Those things exist, and they do exist in bits and pieces on the left, and I call them out when I see them. But the real potential problem on the left is defining the left so rigidly that it will fail to accomplish anything major, because it will keep out way too many people who share most of our goals. And there's a really good article by Joshua Seitz in Politico from June 1st called "Progressives Should Read Progressive History So They Don't Blow It This Time." And it points out that there are major problems to solve right now in American society, in the American economy. But if progressives want to achieve change, we need to understand how past movements have succeeded. And the article looks at the progressive movement of the early 1900s, and it looks at the New Deal coalition of the 1930s, and it also looks at the conservative coalition of the 70s and 80s, which was really successful for conservatives. And I won't go into the specifics of the three movements right now, but the general thing they did right is they were inclusive of people who disagreed on some of what should be the agenda, but they agreed on enough of the important stuff that they were able to get really important change to happen. And that's my real concern about the progressive movement right now. And I'm going to talk about this at the end of the week in audience questions. The lines are being drawn too narrowly, and people who could work together on, for example, 70% of their agenda or 80% of their agenda are going to end up doing nothing because they're concerned about making pages targeting other people on the basis of the 10 or 20% that they disagree on. One example, okay? Small but growing is this divide on the left between social democracy and socialism. It's a great debate philosophically. It's a great debate economically. I'm glad to have that debate, social democracy versus socialism. I've engaged in that debate on the show. The U.S. is not going to become socialist anytime soon. And before the U.S. will have a reasonable possibility of becoming socialist, it's going to have to move significantly in the direction of social democracy. The reforms that are possible in the immediate are reforms that are social democracy reforms, which should appeal to the actual socialists, socializing healthcare, raising the standard of living for the bottom via taxation at the top, and of financial transactions that add no value to the economy, and education. What is the point in redirecting energy away from making those changes, which both social democrats and socialists agree on, in order to debate and draw the lines between you're either with the socialists or you're against us? This is stupid, okay? The left will lose if that's what they do. Let me give another example that applies to me. I am against intervention in Venezuela, 100%. I've said it 100 times. But I also think that the Chavez-Maduro regimes have been terrible for Venezuela, okay? We agree on the left almost 100% about being against military intervention in Venezuela. And yet, when I bring up, by the way, I don't like Maduro and Chavez, and here's why, and I think that they have been disastrous plunderers for Venezuela, all of a sudden I'm on the wrong side when it comes to the intervention piece, and people are ignoring the fact that I'm right here with you. I'm against military intervention in Venezuela. Let's work together on that, because the debate over Chavez and Maduro has less in terms of immediate consequences than that about American intervention in Venezuela. So let's table some of the less immediately relevant discussions. Let's actually get stuff done that we all agree about, and let's not draw the lines too rigidly, because that's the problem I see on the left, not free speech campus stuff or SJWs or whatever. Those problems exist. I call them out. They're relatively small. But anyway, have fun with the anti-Sam Seder, anti-David Pakman groups, but you are doing damage to the movement, unfortunately.